Hello and welcome to the Behind the Blockchain podcast. My guest today is Ashutosh Sahoo, founder of Brandsand. Ashutosh, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Jack. I'm good. Thanks. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, Ashutosh, for people who don't know who you are, could you introduce yourself a little bit, please?
Yeah, sure. I have been in the blockchain space since 2017, I would say, as a retail investor. But in 2020, kind of decided to take the plunge full time. Started off building PolyTrade, which today is one of the popular RWA apps, marketplaces. So that is how I started off, in the blockchain space. But while I was chief of growth, while we were building Polytrade, I realized that the infrastructure layer is not yet ready for real world applications to thrive. So I spent some time in on the infra side. So I was with a REEF, which was a substrate based layer one. Was doing pretty well. Yeah, similar to Polkadot, but it was a substrate solo chain. Then I was a part of Router as the chief of marketing and strategy. So pretty much led the pivot from a proof of authority bridge to layer one blockchain, solving specifically for interoperability, because the number of blockchain ecosystems that were evolving wasn't funny. So there had to be a common standard, and interoperability was important. And back in the days, it was a novelty. Today, if you look at the industry, interoperability is a norm, right? It is assumed that everything has to be interoperable, everything has to be seamless. But back then, it was a novelty, still early days solving. So after Router, when we got closer to the bull market, what I realized is there are so many builders who are building applications, but very few people to actually guide them. And that is when the idea of a DAO came to my mind. So I said that if we can assimilate talent from all across the globe, from all the functional areas that a DApp or a protocol needs to be successful, right? Be it
Mhm.
on the product side, be it on technical audits, be it on blockchain architecture, be it marketing, business development, finance, treasury, tokenomics, then that would be a solid proposition for builders. Because as a builder, you spend a lot of time building a D app, and then you find the right team, you find the right people to actually grow the D app, right? Whereas as a builder, all you are supposed to do is focus on solving a problem, and write the code. And it's almost like business as a service right? So if we can take part of all other components, does that make your journey faster? And we found a very good reception. A lot of people found merit in what we are doing, because in today's market, I mean, you've been in the talent sector yourself, right? And you're running
Yeah.
a recruitment agency. So you know how difficult it is to find good talent, and how difficult it is to make the talent and the organization meet, right?
Mhm.
So that is what we are trying to do with the DAO, in the spirit of the gig economy. So yeah, the DAO is currently, I think, about 4 5 months old, but
Okay.
doing really well. We have about 97 members in the DAO, contributing in various capacities across various functional areas. So yeah.
Sounds cool. Well, I'll get you to go into that in a little bit more detail in a few minutes, if that's all right. And if you could take us back to before you got into Web3 and blockchain, were you always in growth and marketing? Was that right from the start of your career
So
to now?
I started off as a software engineer with Hewlett Packard, but
Okay.
this was way back in 2005. So I have close to 20 years of working experience. But thereafter, I worked with organizations like Trump, Johnson and Johnson, some real
Yeah.
estate, organizations like Shobha and Lodha. So I have mostly been in strategy, business development, and marketing functions, but definitely started off in tech as a software engineer.
Nice. What made you make the move from being a software engineer into marketing? Because that's not the usual career trajectory, right?
Yeah, it is not, but as a software engineer, I found that we were eventually developing softwares to solve for a business need, right? So our clients, specifically my client, the team which I was working with, they were serving Procter and Gamble and Amcor, Pacific brands, so some consumer goods products. And what I realized is the business side of things is equally important, because that is where the consumer directly gets in touch with you. That's the moment of truth. Software back then, it was kind of an enabler. Okay, but
Mm.
with blockchain, with advent of Web3, all of that changed, right? So now software is directly consumer facing. So yes, I had to wait for 15 20 years, but I mean, I'm sure if in 2005 we had Web3 and blockchain, I would never have thought of doing masters in business and getting into the business side of things, marketing, business development, or strategy. So
No, that's cool. And obviously, you've had some, as you just explained, had some pretty cool positions within the Web3 space. You know, chief marketing officer, chief growth officer, now founder
yeah.
of Brands. And are there any kind of key skills that you've learned throughout your career that have really helped you to achieve those roles or achieve the position that you're in now?
Yes, I think empathy and understanding the consumer, right?
Okay.
Understanding the consumer, is followed by understanding the market, because you need to deliver, as a consumer goods product or as a blockchain protocol, what the market wants, and for that you have to be able to identify the need gap that is existing, or you should be able to create a need if the gap doesn't exist, right? And that, I think, is the most important skill. But easier said than done, because to know what consumers want, you will have to interact with hundreds or thousands of them. And especially in Web3, that is difficult, because not everyone is fully doxed.
Yeah.
I mean, even in Web2, research is actually not that easy. Okay, so that is why you have specialized research agencies like AC Nielsen, yeah, and Brand Union, etc. Right? So research is never easy, but it is necessary, because consumer is not going to come and tell you that, hey, this is what I want, this is what 100,000 people like me want, please build this. You will have to find it out, and that, I think, is the most important skill. Everything else can be acquired, of course. There are theories. I mean, I'm also a professor in the marketing and strategy area, right? So
Okay.
there is a lot of theory in every area of marketing, every area of business. But I always believe in simplicity, and in simple terms, understand the consumer, articulate the need, and solve it meaningfully with a product. I think those are some very, very important uh, things to be taken care of.
No, that's some good advice. And if someone, this might be quite a difficult question to answer, but if someone is wanting to learn how to better understand their customer and learn that whole process, have you got any recommendations on where they can go? Is it just a trial and error type situation? Are there kind of certain courses or books or anything like this that you think people should be aware of if they're looking to develop that skill?
I think it is all about observing, right? You need to know what is your consumer doing today, right? I mean, a bit old example, but a very relevant example, like the boot of the car, right? So I don't know, was it Volvo or was it Saab? I don't remember the brand, but nowadays the boot of the car is hydraulic, right? It's probably even
Yeah,
remote controlled.
just
But back in the
press a
days,
button.
yeah, yeah. I mean, back in the days, there were no buttons. You had to manually, twist the lever, hold the boot of the car open, and while you're keeping the lid open, you needed to put your stuff in there,
Yeah.
because automobiles, cars were primarily designed for men, right? So there was never a need of convenience when it came to the boot, right? Until the product manager or marketing manager of Saab. I mean, apologies, I forget the brand. It
Yeah.
was probably Saab or Volvo. Don't remember which one. So their product manager actually observed user behavior in the parking lot of a supermarket, and they saw that there were a lot of mothers who were visiting the supermarket and not necessarily the men, and some of them actually had a pram with a baby, and it was literally impossible for them to operate a manual boot lid while holding a pram and a few bags from the supermarket, and they were like really struggling with it. And that is where the whole idea of a hydraulic system in the boot came in, so that when you opened it, it stayed open until you closed it. Now, that car really became very, very popular with this specific consumer segment, right? And similarly, there is another more recent example, like Gillette, right? When they come up with their razor innovations, they started with one blade, and then they said that two blades are better than one, three blades are better than two, five blades are better than three. But in
Yeah.
all the process, they realize that there is something that they are missing, because when they observed the shopper, so the buyer of the Mac 3 or the Fusion, he was also buying a single blade razor, and that really baffled the marketing manager, right? Or the research agency. And why are they doing that? I mean, they are choosing a three blade razor, which is far superior, but why do they need a single blade razor? And then they went all the way to actually observe men shaving in their bathrooms, and they realized that this line over here, you cannot get a sharp line with a three blade razor. It is always graded. And then they put a single blade behind the three blades, so you had blades on both sides, so you would have three blades on one side, and then you had a single blade on the back to get the precision. So the products that we use in our day-to-day world, we often take them for granted, but they have been results of very specific and very 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 tactful observations by some of these product designers, marketing guys, research guys, right? And even if you look at Web3 today, so there are I mean, if you look at DeFi specifically, right? I won't talk about meme coins and NFTs, but if you look at DeFi today, most of the TVL is coming from lending and borrowing protocols, right? Like Aave.
Mhm.
But if you go one level deep, you see that there is actually a lot more money lent than there is assets that are borrowed, and
Okay.
that underutilization rate is as high as 69%. So imagine that there is 100 billion dollar worth of TVL, but only 37 to 40 billion is actually utilized. Now, can you imagine the
Interesting.
amount of economic activity that can be created if we actually improve the utilization rate to say an 80%? It is going to
Mm.
quadruple the economic activity, right? Now, that this is a data point, right? What I'm saying is the utilization rate on DeFi protocols is only is less than 69%. That is a data point, but what is leading to that data point? And when you dig deeper, then you realize that because there is no clear purpose for a borrower, and because the borrower actually doesn't know what to do with a borrowed amount, sure, there is some place where I can borrow something, but what do I do with the borrowed amount? So unless you give a single UI, a single platform where he can lend, he can borrow, and do something with the borrowed amount. And that do something here in simple terms could be, make money from the borrowed amount, deploy it into cool strategies. So unless it is available on a single platform, the growth of DeFi is always going to be choked. So it is not always, necessarily about technology or upgradation in infrastructure or improvement. Sometimes it is all about user behavior, and this is the biggest use case in Web3. So I think one needs to really, really look into user behavior, buyer behavior, understand what the audience is doing, why are they doing, ask those questions, ask those people in your closed circle. Because I mean, in Web3, research is very difficult, right? Because nobody, a lot of people prefer to be anonymous or pseudonymous.
Mm.
It's impossible. In Web2 you can still appoint research agencies and get to your consumers, but in Web3, at least as of today, it's very difficult. So all you can do is ask friends, families, people who you know. But even that would lead to a lot of interesting observations. So listen a lot, watch, absorb. That is the core skill here, I would say.
No, it's a good skill to learn. It sounds like you've just come up with a new project where you can lend, borrow, and then use that borrowed funds as well.
No, I mean, to be honest, several several builders are trying to solve this problem. Yes, one of the projects that the DAO is working with is trying to address this, this problem. It's called Zeru Finance. The public testnet is going live tomorrow. Uh, yeah, we are all looking forward to the reception, see how it goes, because a lot of efforts have been put in by the builders to really get everything in the same place. But I would say that the core of what Zeru is doing is more credit infrastructure, and this is one of the applications of a robust credit infrastructure. Right, today there is no credit infrastructure which is available in Web3. Now, a lot of people have tried to solve that, but it always gets stuck at KYC, right? Because people are hesitant to do KYCs in Web3. And if people are not willing to do KYCs, how are you going to implement a CIBIL score like you have in Web2? It is not possible, right? So,
Mhm.
can you actually? So the problem here is, again, the fact here is credit infrastructure in Web3 is lacking. But why is it lacking? It is because people don't want to do KYC. People don't want to divulge who they are. So, which means you should be able to come up with a credit infrastructure that does not rely on KYC. So, how do you do that? Now, that is the problem statement to solve. Okay, everyone knows that there is no credit infrastructure in Web3, and a lot of people are trying to solve it in a lot of different ways. But if you know that the what is the real cause for the lack of credit infrastructure, it is actually the unwillingness of people to do KYCs. Now, if you can come up with a credit infrastructure or an algorithm which can give a credit score without doing the KYC, that is a game changer. So that is what Zeru is trying to do. Very excited about it. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, that's cool. Is that the same as Zero Lend? Is that part of the same project? Is that
again,
different?
again zero lend, Spark, I think few other protocols are also trying to solve for this use case. But
Okay.
there are people who are solving for credit infrastructure. There are people who are solving for zero collateral loans. There
Mm.
are people who are solving for DeFi strategies, how to seamlessly and in a user friendly manner deploy complex DeFi strategies. But all of it in one platform, I have not seen anyone do it. So Zeru is kind of bringing all of it together. So let's see how it goes. Probably Gearbox. Yeah, Gearbox is again doing really well because they are able to address two of the three problems here, and I can see that their TVL is also picking up significantly. So there is a market, there is a user base for these kind of products. I think Ivan is the founder of Gearbox, right? He's also the founder of Lobster DAO. So I think that is another protocol which is doing well, which is operating
Yeah.
in a similar space. Again, there are a few other zero collateral lending platforms, but they are mostly institutional. You have Goldfinch Finance, which is fairly well known, and then you have, I think, Maple. So, but they are mostly institutional. They are not retail focused.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, yeah, I'll be keeping a close eye on Zero. You say that the testnet's going out tomorrow,
Yeah,
or
Zeru.
launching
It's
tomorrow?
ZERU. Yeah, Zeru.
ZDRU. Okay. Nice. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah.
So when you started your career, obviously you're a software engineer. Did you always know that by the end of it you wanted to be, the founder of a business, or helping other businesses with their marketing and growth, and being in that kind of real senior leadership position? Was that always part of the plan?
No, no. I think when I was a software engineer, all I was thinking was, okay, when do I get out of work and catch a game of cricket or play some badminton with friends? Yeah, I mean, honestly, no. Had no clue, no idea. I wasn't even thinking about those things. When you are 21 or 23, you think about different things in life. I mean, today's. I mean, it is honestly impressive. I'm really impressed about the clarity that today's 21, 23 year olds have, because they
Mm,
have this, that okay, I want to be a founder in DeFi. I want to be the founder of an infrastructure platform that does this. The amount of clarity I think today's youngsters have, 21, 23 years old have, is amazing. And it was nowhere, we were nowhere close, I think.
no,
Hats off to today's generations, really. Yeah.
no, I tend to agree. To be honest, I think at 21 years old, I was going out 4 nights a week and really just bothered about the
Yeah.
weekends, and that was pretty much it. It's only obviously
Yeah, we were
later on
bothered, we are all,
that changed.
yeah, yeah, thinking about who the next date could be and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. When did that change for you? When did you think, what, I really want to found my own business, or I really want to become a leader of a business?
I think, I mean, there was no clear time. I think it was a very logical progression, or a very slow transition, I would say. When I realized that, okay, I have created sufficient value for sufficient businesses. Right. So even as the CMO of Shobha, or the executive vice president for Trump organization in the Asia Pacific region, what were we doing actually in those roles? We were essentially growing the top line of the businesses that we were a part of, right? Now, what we are doing at brands end is also the same thing. In a way, it's a logical progression, right? So I have always been in roles which have grown businesses, which have grown enterprises, and now we are doing it in the Web3 space. Definitely the call for the community is a key difference, right? In enterprises, you are working for the founder, or the board of directors, or the organization that you are a part of. In Web3, you are actually working for the community, right?
Mm,
And that is primarily, one of my attractions towards Web3, because it is by the community, for the community. And when I started off in Web3, and even today, right, I volunteer for a lot of side events, to host main events, to help in organizing events. And that gives me a lot of pleasure, lot of satisfaction, right? So I've been volunteers at several ETH conferences, and it makes you feel, like a part of a common mission. And if you have the skill sets of growing a business, you can apply the same skill sets to help builders grow their protocols. In the process, you're not only growing the business, but you're bringing utility to the community. And I think it was a very smooth transition that way.
Yeah, for sure. You must have spoken to tons of founders and advised, tons of founders and people working in pretty senior positions in projects. Are there certain or are there very common mistakes that you see a lot of people make that you can come in and kind of fix straight away?
Uh, One of the most common things which happens is the synergy between the business and tech side of the organizations.
Okay.
So, yeah, either the founder is a business co-founder, which means he has got good business skills and sees the tech team as only service providers. Okay, so in which case, some of his suggestions may not actually make sense to the tech team, because while those might be good business suggestions, they might be impractical to be implemented in code, or there might be some underlying flaw in logic. The other way is also true. You have tech co-founders who think that business is no big deal. It's all about the code, and therefore business is a service provider. Now, if either of it happens, it's a problem. Tech cannot see business as a service provider, business cannot see tech as a service provider. And it is like running a good restaurant. If you want to build a restaurant to last, you have to make your chef a 50% business partner, right? Unless you give equal stakes to your chef, your restaurant is not going to make it to the Michelin guide. So that's the same thing. That's one of the common things which I have observed. The business co-founders tend to say that, oh, I am stuck with the wrong tech people. The tech co-founders tend to say that, I think our business team needs improvement, our BD is not doing great, our marketing is not doing great. And if both of them can come together and co-create, the output is amazing. So teams which have successfully cracked the synergy between business and technology, they are the protocols that are thriving today.
Interesting. And with Brands and, are you tending to find that you're helping out more from a marketing and growth and business perspective, or more from a technical perspective, or is it a real mix of both?
Oh, currently, I think it is 70-30. 7 out of 10 projects are focusing on the business side of things. But when I
Okay.
say business side of things, there are product market fit is also a part of it. So some of the protocols that we worked with, we have actually redesigned their complete go to market strategies there. We have added functionalities into the product, even helped in developing some of those. Uh, but yeah, it's 70-30 at the moment. So we are mostly
Okay.
helping tech co-founders with the business side of things.
Okay. Nice. And obviously you briefly touched on it at the start of the call, but could you introduce us to Brands and in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, sure. So Brandstand is basically a DAO. It has been conceived, as a DAO, and DAO is basically a decentralized autonomous organization, right?
Mhm.
So it's like a contributors economy, and Web3 needs that. Okay, people don't want to be stuck to one role in one company. But again, what suffers is, in such settings is usually the accountability. So we thought that if we can bring in talent from all across the world, from various functional areas, and if we can bring in accountability, then we could have a winning formula here. And accountability is a direct outcome of rewards. So if you have more rewards on the table, you will automatically have a greater sense of ownership and a greater sense of accountability. So you really don't need bosses. Mostly Web3 is about flat organization structures. People know what their skill sets are, and people know how to go about their jobs in the best manner possible, so you don't need too many layers of supervision, right? But for accountability, you need to kind of have rewards, and that is in a way how Web3 protocols function, right? If you take any proof of stake blockchain, so the security of the economic security is taken care by mapping it to the incentive. So if you are a bad actor, then you get slashed, your rewards get slashed, right? So that is exactly the philosophy of the DAO. So you can work on whatever project comes to the DAO, and the rewards are in proportion to the contributions. So that is the model that we have created. So there is no hierarchy, no organization structure. So there are no roles in DAO, like, okay, this guy is the CEO, this guy is the COO. So no roles. It is people, and there are functional areas, and then there are projects and founders who come to us. Okay, hey, I need help with influencers and KOLs. Then we look around in the DAO. Is there someone who is experienced in running a KOL influencer agency? If so, we make them meet, and then it is a direct conversation between the business and the KOL agency. Now, if the intervention of the core members of DAO is required, then obviously a certain percentage or certain royalty comes into the DAO. Now, question is, what will happen over a period of time with this royalty that gets accrued or accumulated? The idea is to eventually launch a DAO token, which can be a governance token and which can be a rewards token. So we have actually worked out the economics, but right now we don't want to launch the token yet. We want a few projects to be successful, happy with the DAO, few projects to be to be known, so that the capabilities of the DAO, capability, not the capabilities of the DAO, but capabilities of the people of the DAO, right? So
Mm.
once we have the proof that yes, this is working, then we can issue a token. So people who are holding the token, they can uh, delegate work to the DAO, and rewards can come in the project token. So we create a whole economy between the contributors and people who seek those services. In a way, it will be similar to Fiverr, but with
Okay.
a lot more accountability, because in Fiverr the incentives are decided by the person who is giving out the assignment. But in this case, in Web3, it is always based on the tokenomics. So depending on the mandate, depending on the work that is on the table, and depending on how you have designed the tokenomics, what is on the team, it's a mutually agreed percentage, and whatever comes in directly goes to the contributor. So if a project, for example, says that, okay, I am willing to give you 100,000 of my project tokens for this assignment, and if there are three contributors, then that goes in the ratio of contributions to the project. Okay. And yeah, in the future we can have governance if required, to decide who has contributed what, what kind of value it has been generated. And it is fairly easy to track. So for example, someone in social media, the KPIs will be very easy to measure. Before you took up the assignment, this is where it was, and after the assignment was completed, this was the growth in engagement rate, this was the growth in following, etc. Slightly more tricky when it comes to creative areas, because a good website for me might not be a good website for someone else. But in most areas, the KPIs are fairly easy to identify, and as long as they are met, the commitment is done. So that is what brands and is.
Sounds cool. And do you have some level of due diligence on the contributors who come into the DAO who can then work with projects, or is that down to the project to
Most
say,
of
we've had a chat with them
most
and yeah, we want them to contribute?
Mostly their work speaks for themselves, right?
Okay.
So in DAO, you have people like from Uniswap, X Polygon, Injective, and it's still a small ecosystem. So you know that someone who has written the code for a major protocol, you don't need to do due diligence, right? They have been the people behind. I mean, if you look at the members of the DAO currently, they are mostly angels, founders themselves, or lead engineers, or people who have been in head of growth, head of business development positions. So it's not like you get greenhorns into DAO, or you get freshers that you need to do some due diligence. If you get freshers, if you get inexperienced folks or first timers in Web3, you might have to do a due diligence. But I don't know, by design they are not coming to the DAO, because DAO is a fairly evolved concept. Unless you have done your time in Web3, you will really not understand how DAO functions. So far we have been getting like absolute experts in in the respective fields, and the projects have been fairly happy with what the members of the DAO have been able to deliver for them. Still early days, but I think in a month or two you will see success stories coming out.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. Well, yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on it for sure. Sounds like a really cool place to be. And yeah, obviously, congrats for launching and yeah, starting to work with projects and things now. Yeah, it sounds exciting.
Yes, thank
Um,
you.
so when you've worked with projects and when you've say a founder comes to you and says, "Look, I've got this idea. I want to launch this project." Are there certain foundations that someone needs to have in place in order to launch a project, in order to start a project? Like, are there certain things that you go, right? You have to have this when you start this, and this. You can worry about this later. Are there certain things that you need to have in place?
uh, Clear articulation of the problem that you're trying to solve,
Okay.
uh, clear articulation, or clear architecture of the solution that you're thinking about, clear visibility on who is going to implement the solution, and to some extent financial runway of 4 to 6 months. These are
Okay.
some of the basics that are needed. Now if you don't have the financial runway, then you will need to work with an incubator or an accelerator, or for example, we have angels in our DAO as well. So you will do an outreach, but eventually it will come in. But clear articulation of the problem, the architecture of the solution, and how are you going to go about implementing the solution, who is going to implement that solution, how long is it going to take. Now, once these three things are taken care of, do you have the financial runway to survive as long as it takes to come up with the solution. Now then you go into the next level of detailing. What is your go to market strategy going to be? What is your tokenomics going to look like? Then you go on and make your pitch deck, you launch your white paper, website, then you start doing your investor outreach. You probably get into the testnet phase, see what kind of feedback you get from the community, and thereafter you go mainnet. So these are some of the steps, and at every point in time, needless to say, having the right people on the job is important, because today you have so many market makers, so many influencers, so many KOLs, so many media
Mm.
agencies. How do you choose who is right for you, right? So yeah, these are some of the steps to be followed.
And this might be quite a difficult question to answer. You kind of asked it then. How do you choose? How do you choose the right partner? How do you choose the right ecosystem? How do you choose the right chain to launch on? Like what? How do you do that as a founder?
uh, how do you choose the right chain to launch on? Purely depends on the community and the activity levels on of the ecosystem, right?
Okay.
So Yeah, I mean, today, if you, I mean, it's needless, right? If you open your Twitter or Farcaster feeds, all you see is Base and Bera. So, needless to say, those are two of the most anticipated ecosystems out there. So, it makes sense to launch on, these two ecosystems. So, that is a fairly easy choice to make, I would say, right?
Hmm.
One usual discussions, or a point of discussion that used to come up few months back was, should we be EVM or should we be non EVM, right? So essentially, the Solana versus Ethereum debate, or the Polkadot versus Ethereum debate. But that seems to have settled. There is reasonable clarity on the ecosystems that are doing well. So you have Ethereum, of course, Ethereum and its L2s. Then you have Solana, which is doing well. Then you have Ton, which is doing well. Then you have Near, which is doing well, right? So that is how you choose. So it's a fairly straightforward, easy decision to make. Then there are certain nuances, internal parameters, right? Okay, which of the ecosystem is likely to support us more, right? With announcements, with growth, with GTM, with grants, and then you can choose one EVM L2 over another, or you can arrive at. But those are secondary parameters for choosing. Primary parameter is, you should choose an ecosystem where you're confident that your application is going to get adoption. So for example, if you're building DeFi and launching it on an ecosystem which is known for memes, then that's not the right thing to do. You need to launch a DeFi application in an ecosystem which is known to have DeFi users, right? So that bit of synergy is important. Now, the other part of the question was, how do you choose the right partner, right? That usually comes from experience, and that is the reason why we have so many founders, ex-founders in the DAO. Uh,
Okay.
you know, you become a founder by making several mistakes. So that what works, what does not work. So mostly it is collective intelligence, it's iterations. There is no clear way of determining from a pitch deck or a proposal document on whether this is the right partner. Okay, so of course you can do some bit of filtering based on the scope, services, how they intend to go about delivering those promises. Yes, some bit of filtration is possible. Probably one or two rounds of calls help. Asking, of course, how have you gone about delivering your previous projects, that helps. Reference check helps. Okay, so if you have worked with past projects, please give us references. But mostly it is experience, that that, okay, this market maker has been really good, really performed in difficult times, or this agency has been able to deliver good creative outputs over the last 3 years or 4 years. And yeah, that, that's how you go about it.
That's good advice. I suppose there's so many communities in Web3 that are super, super helpful. So say if you are building something for the first time, you can head into tons of different communities and get people's recommendations and referrals into various different partners and that kind of stuff, right? So you don't necessarily have to just go off what they're saying to you. You can speak to people who've built stuff before. And I actually think we're in a very, very lucky phase of the industry. Hopefully it stays like this. I'm not sure whether it will forever, but we're in a lucky stage of the industry where everyone wants to help each other to grow and scale and to expand the pie, I guess, right? So yeah, at the moment, everyone's super, super willing to have those types of conversations, which is great.
Yeah, I think right now it's all about collaboration rather than competition.
Yeah.
And it is likely to stay that way, because everyone who is there in Web3 today is bound by a common philosophy. And the market is still very, very nascent, very, very young. I
Mm.
mean, and it's very very small, so it absolutely doesn't make sense to compete with each other, uh, right? By collaborating, you are growing the market, and when the market grows, even if you are getting a pie of the market, uh, it should be good for you. So right now it is all about collaboration rather than competition.
Yeah, you're right. And if someone is
And
stepping
that,
into, com-
yeah, that's very obvious from the kind of interactions that you have on Discord channels, or on Vodcast, on some of these platforms, right? So there are builders groups for specific communities. There is base builders group, there is Arbitrum founders club, there are unofficial groups like Lobster DAO, then there are crypto executive groups, communities. And mostly, if you put out a legitimate question, you have at least 10, 12 people giving you good answers, good advice, even going to the extent of DMing you, chatting to you at length. So that spirit of collaboration is what is amazing about Web3.
yeah, I agree. It's yeah, it's one of my favorite parts about the industry, to be honest. That everyone's so willing to help each other and to help people learn and develop and give advice and stuff. It makes the
I
industry a
mean, take
nice
our
place to be.
example. Yeah, even if you take our example, we as a DAO met Daniel through you, right?
Yeah,
And
of course.
he is, advising Zeru on the smart contracts side. So
Oh, good.
this is what collaboration looks like.
So if someone was stepping into um, Web3 for the first time, is there anything that you'd really like people to be aware of the industry before they become a part of it?
Don't share your secret phrase.
Say again, sorry.
Don't share your don't share your secret phrase.
Yeah, write that somewhere and lock it in a safe. Never send it to anyone.
And don't take financial advice on Twitter. uh, what else? Uh, yeah, I mean, jokes apart, but these are serious advice, by the way. But are you asking more from a career perspective, or more from a user's perspective?
um, Both, to be honest. I guess some of the answers, or some of the sometimes when I've asked that question before, guests have spoken about they'd like people to be aware of the community aspect of the industry. Maybe having some pressures from the external community because you're building very out in the open, um, or it could be the fact that there are a lot of scams in the industry, so you do have to be really careful. Yeah, just if there is anything that you would like to make people aware of, to be honest, before they join the industry.
Due diligence and research is something that's very important. Uh,
Okay.
you know, and before they join the industry, I mean, it's okay. I mean, Web three, is fairly flexible. So even if you make a wrong choice about your first gig in Web three, it's fine. It's okay. I would, on the contrary, encourage people to dive into Web three without wasting a lot of time, right? Because we are at the cusp of massive growth, massive explosion. So one shouldn't deliberate too much. If they know about Web3, they are reasonably excited, they shouldn't waste any time in diving right into Web3. Of course, they have to be very careful on the financial side of things, the fund side of things. There are a lot of vulnerabilities, there are a lot of threats, there are a lot of bad actors who try to take advantage of naive new joiners, normies, right? So
Mm.
when it comes to financial matters, very very important to uh, be super careful, super precise, do a lot of research. So they have to be for sure, even when someone is receiving their first salary, for example, if someone has joined Web3, and they are about to receive their first salary, are you sending the correct wallet address? I have heard so many instances where people missed out on their monthly income, monthly salary, because they gave a wrong wallet, or they gave a wallet with an unsupported chain. The funds were
Mm.
sent to that wallet on Ethereum, and this guy did not know, and they gave some other address. So with your funds, you have to be like super careful, whether you are receiving, whether you are sending, whether you are trying out an application. Yes, you have to be very very careful. It is worth the research, it is worth spending that extra time reading. But when it comes to pursuing a career, pursuing an opportunity, I would say that don't think too much, don't do a lot of research, just dive in, just experience it. It's okay to go wrong in your first gig. It's okay to go wrong in your first 10 gigs. It's okay, because this is what learning is about. So that would be my objective advice. So with funds, very careful. With gigs, just dive in. Don't
Just
research
go
too
for
much.
it.
Don't break much.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. And if someone is wanting to build a successful career as a chief marketing officer or chief growth officer in Web3, um, are there any particular bits of advice you could give someone around that?
The one which I told about consumer behavior, user behavior, understanding the consumer, understanding the market, that holds, right? That is the core of everything. Now, on top of that, you would want to build on functional skills, right? Now, typically in Web 2, for someone to become a CMO on an average would take what, at least 7 to 10 years, probably even more
Yeah,
in
at
manufacturing.
least. Yeah, at
Yeah,
least.
yeah, at least, right? Probably in tech, I've seen some people with 5 years of experience becoming CMOs. So typically the journey in Web 2 is what you start as an assistant brand manager, or a brand manager, or a sales executive, or an area sales manager. Then you elevate into a category manager, category marketing manager, and then you kind of become head of marketing, head of certain region, and then you become the CMO, right? In
Yeah.
Web3, people can become CMO in with 3 months of work experience. So it's very 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 important
Yeah.
to to learn functional skill sets. It's okay not to have the years of experience, but it's very important to have certain functional skill sets, right? Now, as a CMO, you should also be able to do things which are required of every marketing function. Now, it starts with content. So definitely helps if you are a good writer, or at least you can give the right prompts to chat GPT to come up with good content, and spend some time to unchat GPT it. Right. So content is a very important skill, not just for a CMO, but even for I keep saying this to tech folks as well. You should be able to articulate what you are building. So the ability to write content is something that's very important. It could be simple paragraph, simple line, or detailed blogs or white papers, but everything revolves around content, because it is the end user is eventually going to consume your content, and he is not going to consume your code. He's going to use your user documentation, he is going to read your manuals, he is going to read through your social media posts, he is not going to read through your codes or audit reports, right? So content is
Mm.
one of the very important skills to develop. Another important skill is distribution, which means you should be able to penetrate into the community yourself, right? Without necessarily relying on paid ads, or PPC campaigns or paid promotions, you should be able to build a distribution network which is relevant to you and the protocol that you represent. Okay. Distribution is a very important skill. uh, Apart from that, I would say, maintaining good relationships as a CMO, that is very important. At least try to meet top journalists, key influencers, KOLs. Try to meet other founders. Try to meet your competition. Try to meet your co- you know compatriots in, your uh, likes in other protocols, your contemporaries in other protocols. That relationship building, so I would say content distribution, relationship building, these are some of the key things. Now, of course, we can get more detailed about certain marketing technical skill sets, right? Like SEO, SEM, or brand management, right? A very important skill sets. So, uh, even in Web 2, brand management, core brand management skill set is very, very rare, right? You don't have a lot of people who have actually read Capferer, or who know the brand keyhole model, or are familiar with these brand development exercises, brand identity, how to come up with a brand identity, how to write a positioning statement. Okay. Those are like deep marketing theory, which probably graduates or postgraduates in marketing would be aware of, but that's a slightly rarefied skill set even in Web 2. And needless to say, in Web 3, I have not seen a lot of specialists in brand management. So if you have that skill, it is definitely going to give you a head start over others, right? Which means you should be able to say, what color, what font, or what style of writing, what kind of visual or verbal drivers are appropriate for your brand. So if you are able to make that judgment call, I think it is going to augur well for you, for the protocol that you're a part of. So yeah, everything else, it's more technical in nature as you tend to go deeper. But these four areas, which is essentially ability to come up with content, ability to have a distribution channel at your disposal or build your own distribution, ability to foster relationships with people that matter, your contemporaries, other stakeholders, founders, journalists, influencers, and brand management and SEO, I would say. So these are some good things, to have as a CMO. That this, if you're good at all of these four areas, I think you're going to make a very, very good CMO.
Yeah, for sure. And is that something, and these skills that just you learn over time, and you have to just start to experience actually putting all of these into practice, or are there again certain places and certain courses you can do on all of these things to pick things up very quickly? What's your thoughts?
um, what was the question? Because the network was a bit patchy.
Hey, sorry.
Did you ask if these skills could be acquired on the job, or are there literatures available for these? Was that the question?
Yes. So do you think that these are skills that have to be acquired over time and after you're in, tons of different situations with different companies and that kind of thing, or are they things that you can just pick up from a textbook and just implement and put into practice?
uh, Branding and SEO, these are fairly theoretical skills. Okay. Brand management and SEO, digital marketing, these are fairly theoretical skills, so you can probably refer to a textbook or a piece of literature in these areas. You can master this, no problem.
Mhm.
uh, Content, it comes with experience, right? Because content is not just the command of language. Content is basically clarity in your head. and
Yeah.
how well do you understand the functional area that you're writing about, right? It is okay to have not read Ren and Martin, and it's okay to have average grammar, because you have Grammarly to correct that for you. You have
Yeah.
AI agents to correct that for you. But to have that clarity in your mind, that is very important. So this is something that you will only pick up with time and experience. Okay. uh, then about relationships, I mean, yeah, we all know how difficult it is to forge good relationships in life. So of course there is no book or no art of seduction or how to become an influential person in 7 steps. None of that is going to help. You have to be there, put yourself out in the community, speak to people, and see how people receive you, strike those conversations. So that is again a function of the man hours that you put on ground. It's a function of hours that you know spend in nurturing your relationship. Definitely not something that can be picked up from a book. uh, what does that leave us? Distribution, again, it is related to the community, right? uh, it's not something that you can learn. So definitely there are no textbooks which say that, oh, these are the good influencers or these are the good channels to follow. So even in web 2 you don't have, I mean, you probably have some media guides, you have some reports which say what is the average viewership of a certain channel over another. You have
Mhm.
some of those research report, but not in web 3. So you probably have to spend time in distribution, understanding these distribution channels. So yes,
There's no shortcut.
objectively, yeah, branding and digital marketing, SEO, these are some things that you can learn from a textbook or from literature. Everything else, you have to spend time.
Okay. Understood. Yeah. Super, super useful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
and if you are starting out, right, typically don't try to address all the functional areas in on day one or in your first month or first year. Pick up one narrow front, master that well, and it is worth mastering one of these 4 areas before spreading yourself into other areas.
for sure. No, that's good advice. That leads me on to a question I always like to finish up with. I always like to know, knowing what you know now about marketing, growth, leadership, launching projects, advisory, whatever it might be. If you could go back, 20 years or to the start of your career, whenever that might be, to not try and give away your age to any listeners or people watching. Um, is there any advice that you would have for your younger self?
Uh, for my younger self, probably little more empathy for the environment around you. Yeah,
Okay.
spend
What
a
do you
little
mean
more
by that?
time. Yeah, empathy, I mean, try to listen more to people, try to connect more to people. See, because the world, the universe is always talking to you. It is sending you signals, either in the form of people, either in the form of accidents, either in form of incidents, either in in the form of reward. So the universe is always communicating to you. Okay, so it's very important to listen, listen more, value. I mean, it's about absorbing more from the world around you. The more you absorb, uh, you know, the sooner you will progress. That's all.
That's good. No, I like that. That's good
Yeah,
advice.
because most of the times, right, if something unfortunate happens, and when you really analyze that, you will see that there have been warnings about this incident. It's not like it has been, I mean, it's very rare that, very rare and unfortunate that it happened to you and you were completely caught off surprise. No, that would be very, very unfortunate. Okay.
Mm.
But for example, right, if you made a transaction to a wrong wallet, for example, for the first time, you will see that, this was always on the cards because something had happened in the past. So anything wrong that happens, it always comes with warnings. It is like, there is no tsunami without an earthquake. So there has to be an earthquake somewhere deep in the ocean for there to be a tsunami. So if you are a good listener, you will see that, oh, there was an earthquake. You will feel the tremors, and then you will work out that, okay, if there has been an earthquake, there is going to be a tsunami, and you will be better prepared. So you will be a little less surprised. You will be a little more prepared for life if you just listen to the world around you a little more.
Yeah, I like that. And be observant, which is, what you said at the start, observing your customer, obviously be observant to everything going
Yeah.
on around you as well. Well, I like it. It's good. It's good advice. Well, Ashutosh, thank you very much for taking the time to have a conversation today. You shared some brilliant tips and some great advice. I'm going to have to go back through this and make a bunch of notes myself once we've posted it. So yeah, thank you very much for that. If
Thank you.
anyone
Thank you.
listening is really interested to either get involved in the DAO, or they're really interested to understand about some of the projects that you guys are helping, or maybe they've got some extra questions for you, where's the best place for them to reach out to you? Is it drop you a note on Twitter or X
Uh,
now, sorry, or LinkedIn or
yeah,
anything like that?
yeah, yeah. X is fine, or DM on X is fine, or even Telegram is fine. So,
Okay,
yeah.
cool stuff. Well, Ashutosh, thank you very much again, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, Jack. Hope it is useful for your listeners. Great speaking to you.
Absolutely. Take care.